Go ahead.
We are back. Sorry for the inconvenience. Live workout on a Wednesday. Apparently my phone didn't want to cooperate. We've switched to Kerry's phone. Hopefully you're still with us. We are going through a mobility program today, a program I call the Movement Quality Program. With this said program, it's going to create a lot more control and understanding of movement for our body so we can prevent injuries and maybe even recover from injuries. We are at the stage of the T-spine flow exercises. T-spine flow exercises. We started with the one where we were sitting on our heels. Now Kerry's moving into the one that we progress into when we're on all fours. When creating this rotation, of course, we're looking to create rotation from the T-spine area rather than cheating and moving excessively through our hips and our feet. We want to earn that rotation into our T-spine area, yes? After that one, we're going to move directly into the hand placement on our small lower back. Now we're getting more of a stretch in the front capsule as well, in the chest and the neck area, as well as that T-spine. Yes, folks, we're sorry about the inconvenience there. I'm going to actually send a quick message to everybody. Slide over to Kerry's feed as hers is apparently working. Mine wasn't cooperating with us. Was not cooperating with us. Okay, next exercise we will look at. Come on, phone. Gonna get into that side profile stuff. So that's going to be our side lying, posterior, internal, external foot hip rotation. I'm gonna bring this bad boy down on the ground. We'll definitely need some navigation here. So, out of this said side profile, we're going to earn a variety of movements. This is great for getting some booty gains and removing the source of impact that can cause inflammation in the system if I'm running, jumping, changing direction, and I'm getting consistent pain or inflammation in certain areas. We learn how to keep our posture aligned and really use the ability to internalize hip position and externalize hip position. So, into that said side profile. The bottom leg is going to be up in line with our hip joint. Top leg is going to be extended. We're earning a side profile or keeping our pelvis tucked forward or shoulder blades down and back. Out of this set position, I'm going to lift my leg not very high, rotate the foot outward, and rotate the foot inward and try to touch in that inward position. Key for us, I don't want my leg creeping forward in this position using my quad, rather I want to use my glutes, my obliques to earn external and internal hip mobility. All the while, I'm working on pulling my shoulder blades back and pelvis in. You don't need a lot of repetitions for this one. Again, it's just about like 3 to 5 count. It's just mastering some of those subtleties or those real light or connective or corrective, almost like balancing muscles. When we earn these particular muscles, again, if we're running, changing direction, hitting impact, we can avoid injuries as it'll kind of stabilize us. Whereas if we don't have control of this and momentum takes over, it put us at a really high risk. So, move on to the other side, of course. Kerry, do you have any tips for the crowd here?
Not really, no. Keep your top shoulder back.
And as Kerry's obviously coaching us here, she just coached me into getting my position together, right, of course. Working on that top shoulder staying back. You don't want it aggressively creeping forward. After this set exercise, we're going to go immediately into our next flow series. So this one, we're actually going to bring both knees up. When we have both knees up, now this is really going to work those glutes and those obliques, and there's quite a few steps. You've probably seen the clamshell exercise before, which is great for strengthening this, but how often do we just simply do that? There's so many more dynamic moving parts to a lot of our steps or a lot of our workouts. So I've added quite a few exercises for this to master all those movements that we should be using and utilizing in respects to running, changing direction, sprinting, you name it. So, well, you're going to start with that clamshell, but then we add so many more steps. We bring the top leg off the bottom one. We're going to squeeze the knees together for our third step, and this is where it gets really fun. Now I'm going to keep my knees together. What I'm going to try to do out of this position is I'm going to pull my leg back in a 45-degree position. And from this set 45-degree position, I'm going to kick out. When I'm kicking out, I'm looking at keeping that leg at a 45 kick-out position, and I'm going to drive it back in. And then stop. So I'll actually get Kerry to go through some of these exercises, and we'll get a bird's eye view. I'll pull the camera over here, and we can go through some coaching here. So, again, and Kerry goes to open that leg position up. The goal for us is to create that proper alignment in our shoulder girdle as our shoulder blade is coming back, and our pelvis keeps trying to tuck forward. When she goes into that kick out procedure, as we can see here, she's going to kick it back at 45 degrees in a lot of control and with a lot of slow paced movement. As she drives it back in, she's going to try to drive it in at 45. This is great for burning up the butt and the obliques, which is responsible for stabilizing a lot of our structures when we're running, jumping, changing direction. Preventing knee injuries, preventing back injuries, and really strengthening our core and our glutes. Last one for Kerry here. Then we're going to both do it together on the other side. Very good. All right, so place you guys back over here, and we are now going to do them together. Oh yeah. See, I'm going to switch sides. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kicking out at 45. Bring you back to 45. So, rotation. Drive through. Squeeze the knees together. Break. Now, it can be really easy to start arching your back in this one, especially when you start kicking back. Try to refrain from having your back arch, especially your lower back, where it starts to extend here. You're still trying to really earn that alignment through the pelvis, and that's what's going to really garner that glute activation, oblique activation, and allow you to get that realignment or recalibration, if you will. So, and we remove the impact, which is nice. And that is our side profile, internal and external hip mobility drills. Moving on. We're going to utilize the wall for this one. This is going to stretch out a bunch of stuff. On that set wall, what we're going to try to do is almost like we're planking. As we go to reach our arm over, we're going to slide the other arm that we're rotating towards underneath and try to get our body to turn physically towards the side that we are reaching towards. Key for this one, again, I need to master my foot position. And I want to have a reaction where my feet start to activate. They're going to actually earn that set position. And you almost want to feel like you're pressing that movement through your feet. So again, shoulder blades are activated, pelvis is in. When I go to reach, I sneak the other arm underneath, keeping my feet grounded. I'm trying to earn rotation through my hip. You're going to feel this stretch literally down, almost like the diagonal area of your body from this neck piece almost all the way down to that foot area. So really good for us people who get back injuries, tight neck, tight shoulders, stuff like that. Reaching through and driving. I'm a prime example of somebody who's rather stiff, almost too stiff. And what we'll do is we'll actually let Kerry slide in here, show you how beneficial this could be for somebody who moves a little better. So again, when she goes to slide the arm through, go ahead and slide, Kerry. She'll start to move her body through into this position. Try to turn your shoulders towards me as much as you can. Maybe even take a step back a little bit. And what you want to, again, feel as you're doing this exercise, as you're coming through, we're going to touch hands, of course. You want to almost feel like you're creating a lot of tension through your body, not letting this kind of glide through. And with that said tension, you're actually going to earn a little bit more space than you may feel like you're getting beforehand. The space is crucial for down-regulating or recovering properly. We never just want to sit around with our soreness. We're essentially teaching our body to recover at a faster rate with exercises such as this. So 3 to 5 again is a good number, and then we'll move on. And this is going to be a common one that we typically do, and we'll get Kerry to coach us for this one. We're going to do the fire hydrant drill. So if I was on all fours, you've probably seen this exercise before. What happens is people go through a wide range of this and then this and stuff like that, which can be beneficial, but of course if we're trying to recalibrate things, recover from injuries, understand our body more, but we don't want to swing in momentum. So what we're going to try to do, Kerry can coach me through, shoulder blades are down, back, pelvis is in. Instead of cheating, I'm going to try to create a post and keep that imaginary line. And when I go to lift, I'm not going to over exaggerate. I'm actually going to keep it rather stiff. As you can see, I'm not sliding over, I'm earning that side position. It's all on how we start. Shoulder blades are in, pelvis is in, and I'm going to go to lift. And where should I be feeling this? Glutes, going to feel it in the glutes, going to feel it where else? Core. Excellent. You may feel this in the opposing side when we add this intentional strength or this intentional activation, and we're creating tension in that area. We need about 8, and then we'll switch sides.
And we're really not looking for a lot of movement in the lumbar spine or the low back here.
Amen, sister. Again, we don't want swing and momentum. We've been trained to do that. We know how to do that. What we're learning now is really serious control. We've got one more. I count ocho. Good stuff. And we'll move on. And next. Yes. Our wall-assisted global hip mobility drill. Remember the leg circles? Excellent. I'm going to grab this camera this time around. Be a better demo piece with that. So we're going to use this wall that I got here in my place to get into our global hip mobility drill. And you've probably done something like this before, which is more or less something like this. Here we're earning that rotation. Key for us though when we're earning this, again, creating an imaginary line and not reacting. I don't really get a lot of, I guess, improvement of my range of motion, mobility, and control if I'm doing this. And reacting, you can see I'm using my lower back, I'm using my arms to try to earn that space. Rather, with my pelvis engaged, almost sitting on this particular post, in this case my left leg, shoulder blades are down back, pelvis is in. When I go to kick, I'm not overreacting anywhere else, and I'm earning that space exclusively through the hip joint. In this way, I'm learning how to get the true mobility out of my hip. In this case, an external rotation, and then we're going to look at the internal pattern as well. Very beneficial for when we need to do things like run, cut, and maybe if we're getting into martial arts, we need to kick and stuff like that. A lot of us haven't been training our hips higher than the running procedure or the running position, so we can't do it. And when we go there, it's a big risk. So, of course, you want to earn that control. So, kicking the leg out, rotating through, and we'll drive. Okay, so we'll get Kerry to hop in there and show us how it's done in a different perspective, of course. Go ahead. So once you get set up, of course, she's going to work on almost sitting through one particular leg. And now she's showing the other pattern. She's actually very good at this because she's done some martial arts before. Okay. And then as she finishes there, she'll bring the leg back down. And she's actually doing it at a very good pace. You don't have to go as slow as her, but if you're new to this and you're finding that you're not really earning a lot of new space and you feel rather stiff, slower is better. You want the time under tension rule to really help us. One thing you'll look for, we get Kerry to drive her head back in line with my hands. Good. When she gets about here, she's going to tip the leg into that new found position, and while she's there, she'll fight the urge to want to arch here. She'll bring her head up. She'll work on that alignment, and that way her whole body's active and working intentionally through this particular movement sequence. It's great for people with back injuries as well. And if you've trained this position, you know how to use it. So again, great translation for running, cutting, especially if I'm going to kick. I can pause up here, turn my hip over, kick properly. I've mastered this because I've actually worked on it intentionally. 3 per way is great. Don't need to go crazy excessive and do a bunch of repetitions. Great job. Great job by you guys too. This is fun. Okay, next exercise is actually a good one. We can probably do this together, and I'll actually get Kerry to coach me through this one.
What is it?
Our spiral line lift in a kneeling position. These bad boys. I'll actually bring you guys back over here. Just give us more space to look at. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to get into a spiral line. What I'm trying to learn and earn is rotation and extension.
So with this, he's getting into a bit of a hip hinge, so he's not actually going to stay straight up and down as he's creating that space and reaching for the ground. This other side, you should notice his butt is going back to create that space for him to get into that position. We're still trying to keep this shoulder locked and everything is in line so that we're not creating any sort of instability in the shoulder itself.
Correct. So what we don't want to do when we're doing an exercise like this is, and it can feel natural, is just to reach forward. It defeats the purpose of this new space that we're creating here and the ability to rotate while there's weight loaded, because that happens a lot of the time when we're living, we're existing, right? If we're on the ground pushing something, if we're going to catch a ball in the middle of a sport, or we're going to shoot something, we need to learn how to create that intentional rotation. You don't get that when you're doing something like this and you're leaning forward. So if you can see, I'll try to show you here, I'm going to be arching my back. I don't want to earn that. What I want to learn and earn, like she said, is my hips stay evenly loaded. I push my butt almost back and out. My wrist stays straight. And I compile or compose a rotation through my T-spine. When I place the hand, it's imperative this hand doesn't come aggressively ahead. It also doesn't come too close. I want to master my anatomy. If my anatomy is here, I'm going to place my hand there. So when I get here, I'm loaded, keep my eye on the prize. If this is the weight, I come up and around, and you'll notice you're doing it right because you'll hit a wall. It almost looks like I'm going to stall when I get there. When I get about here, it's like, ugh, and then I got to push through it. And that way, we're earning that newfound angle of control or stability in a place that we really should be able to do, is a hip hinge with a rotation. We'll need about 6 to 8 per side, then we switch it up. Kerry, you want to grab them? We'll do this one together. Got these dial weights. Pretty sweet. Alright. So I did the one side, I'm going to switch to the left side. And tension's always our friend for a lot of these movements. So really hurt tension in the front foot. That back foot's going to be active. You know what? Sitting out, because you can't control the hip. If you've had shoulder pain, neck pain, lower back pain, this can be part of a comprehensive rehab program to learn how to keep the hinging coming from the right muscle groups, the right body parts, and learning how to create stability here. Even in the present or the intentional context of rotation. One more for me. Hard part about this one, when I go to extend into this position, I can have a tendency to rotate my wrist out, try to stack your wrist. It reinforces the ability to keep your shoulder blade stacked too. And all your shoulder blades sitting out. Very good. And that is our spiral line lift. fun to stop on programs like this. We're going to look at another classic move here. I'll actually give you guys a better vantage point. Probably about there. Looks pretty good, hey? White wall works well. Okay. We're going to do our bird dog with our articular rotation. Remember those? And then the around the world. Her favorite, okay? Now, we've all seen this exercise before. And again, if we've been able to get what is called aggressive mobility, and you're able to do this, all the more power to you. But if you keep moving like that over a period of time, what happens? Something ends up wrenching, hurting, yada, yada, yada. So we're going to actually control that movement and earn some articular rotation, as we call it, through the shoulder girdle. So they're going to earn that bird dog, but instead of swinging with momentum, it's going to be very controlled and consistent. And some of the takeaways are what, Kerry?
Well, we want to get full extension of the leg, Torian. So
there we go.
still keeping that foot flexed towards the ground.
Good stuff.
Trying to avoid any sort of bending through the lumbar here.
Good. And after about 5 of those, what we're going to do is earn this statuesque pose, and we're going to try to wrap our arm around to our articular rotation through the shoulder girdle. Now, you're going to do your best to keep this aligned. You're not kicking that hip out. You're not arching through your back, like she said. You're not pushing through your chest. Trying to keep everything engaged. Shoulder blades are in, pelvis is in. Keep the foot straight ahead, and then earn that space intentionally through the shoulder girdle. Once you've chosen to get to this part of the exercise, you just stay there. This is incredibly hard. You can see me shaking like a Polaroid picture, but this is great for, again, mastering those extreme positions and earning intentional rotation or intentional space in other areas. Our shoulder joints typically have lack of mobility where I was sitting here. So earning and learning how to open through that shoulder girdle and master components of shoulder blade elevation, depression, global rotation is imperative to avoid shoulder injuries. That comes with the collection of us learning how to earn alignment in our posture. So an exercise like this is great for that. Kerry, can demonstrate the other side. Go for it.
Because you worked hard.
Yes, I worked hard enough. No, I want to give a different perspective of somebody who probably has a little bit better mobility in something like this. So we'll go for 5 of the bird dogs first here. Very good. Let's bring it in underneath and then touch. Excellent. And as you can see, she does a very good job staying very stable. Okay. She doesn't have an excessive lower back bend. She's really earning that alignment. You can almost put a dowel or a stick on her back and she'd stay rather stable, which is what we're looking for. The excessive lower back bending, the excessive lower back training typically is what leads people to lower back injuries. For a lot of us, we actually have a lot of control in our lower back, so there's not really a need per se to work on excessive extension exercises such as like the Roman chair where you're extending back on it. What we actually need to master is what she's doing. Pelvis stays aligned. She learns how to earn neutral extension. She earns glute extension. She learns how to stabilize to the obliques. And in this set position, again, the space is coming from her shoulder girdle in mastery of the rest of her body. Crucial exercise for avoiding injuries. Excellent. And that's our bird dog with articular rotation. Next, we're going to stay on all fours. And again, you've probably done something very similar into this particular exercise. We could probably do this one together and coach at the same damn time. All right, so branching off or progressing from that fire hydrant drill. Now what we're going to do is, if I have enough space here, we're going to do the actual global rotation drill, the same idea. But of course, what I'm not going to do is this and react. I want to create that proper stability into that set position. I don't overreact. I get the leg out to the side, and I earn that control piece. Mastering extension and then rotation while I'm learning how to align my posture. Okay, so Kerry can join us as well. Oh, Hopefully I don't kick in the face. I'm going to move forward, folks, so you might lose me a bit. Any other tips for the crowd there, Kerry?
For this one, I like to do the movement back, and then I like to reverse it instead of just going through and then stopping each time.
Right.
So just to make it a little more difficult.
For sure, and then that's the key for these ones. Like, these are very technical moves. If this is something new to you, these can be very difficult to navigate all those technicalities. But at some point while you're going through this, like say if I'm here and I go here and now notice my body's really arched in certain areas and I don't have control, take a moment to pause, like she said, and check yourself out. What's going on? Are you cheating a lot in your chest, pushing yourself through? Are you doing stuff like that? Give yourself a moment, practice the pause, recalibrate, earn those positions, then commit to it. That's already a better at stuff like this. And again, I promise you, these are the types of exercises that avoid injuries or prevent injuries in the long run. Not to mention, if I want to look shredded and, looking good aesthetically, time under tension is our friend. When we're working these muscle groups for like 30 seconds non-stop, imagine that over a period of time. Less impact on our body through all that crazy lifting, and instead just mastering intentional activation and intentional stability can make a huge difference. Not only function, translation, or application, but aesthetics too. I started getting, a nice six-pack from things like this. It was from using the actual intentional activation of the obliques that master really mimic and allow us to use hip internal mobility and external mobility. So that was one pattern. Let's go back the other way, where we're actually looking at that internal. Let me rotate out. Okay, so again, when I get here, I'm almost tipping my knee inward. Try not to overreact. Kick the leg out the side to earn that internal rotation. That's going to be all glutes, all obliques, baby. Woo! Last one. I'm freaking sweating here, but.
Yeah, me too.
So I mean, this stuff works. Gets you working. Okay. I'm going to take a quick water break. Next one's going to be our shin box. That's where it really gets fun. I'm going to use my homie Kerry for this because I really suck at these.
Just regular?
What we're going to do is show them what the regular one looks like, folkies. And then we're going to show you, if you're kind of like myself, the ways you can break down these set movements to make it more manageable or more serving for you to really eventually be able to do the full encompassing shin box. Again, you want to avoid injuries, earn new strength and new control and stability. It's one of those go-to exercises. So,
if this is not a position that you're able to get in, you can always stick like a block or something under your butt just to get yourself elevated and create a little more space for your hips as well.
And you might want to practice with this one. Like, she's got some practice doing this. She's got some experience doing this. Her mobility's pretty good. So she can sit through this profile rather easy. Like she said, there's ways you can assist. For me personally, I've had injuries and I know I lack in certain areas, I'll use a wall. If I use the wall, it gives me a reference point in which to use that set space or that tension, and when I get here, I can use the wall so I don't fall over, and then I'm learning and earning my control. This is great for the people who are almost there, okay, like myself. Okay? So Kerry's going to show you what the full encompassing shin box rotation looks like. She gets there, she flips to the other side. The takeaway here is when she goes to move, she's going to keep this leg on the ground intentionally and try to activate that side first. That way she can feel her obliques, her glutes, and all of those rotational parts actually intentionally working. She gets that also by doing what? Pulling her shoulder blades back. So those cues are pretty universal for a lot of the movements that we do. Okay? And as she's also adding into the mix, which is a great idea, she physically and intentionally almost pumps her arms. Because our hip function drives our shoulder function. So with poor dysfunctional hips, we'll usually have those dysfunctions translating up the body. So it's imperative, again, we get mastery of these areas. That's why this program is so important for us. Fitness enthusiasts, people that are injured and want to get over injuries, this may be one of those go-tos. Now, say you're like myself and going through these particular positions because you've had injuries or you suck. and things just aren't good, you have to use assistance. The best way to get through that now is to break down some of the mechanics. So instead of going all the way from here to here really fast, what I can do now is start mastering some small, subtle movements. So we'll go through those now. Say I create this post here and I want to eventually be able to rotate there. What I could do is work on pulling this leg up lightly and then keeping the knee down and earning internal hip mobility. I'm just shifting between the two. I'm exploring this set extreme position, and where's my tension coming from? Front leg, shoulder blades. I'm facing the leg that's activating. Of course, I'm going to use the wall because I'm quite stiff. Okay? After I've done something like that, maybe I could create more mobility and just some stretching by moving out of that front hip capsule. Key for me is to groove around that set hip space and get a good stretch rather than that stoic stuff that we always typically see. Remember, we want to earn range of motion and suppleness to our tissue. We're trying to be like water, my friends. After I've done something like that, can I now do some floor sweeps? Absolutely. Maybe I'm keeping this leg posted in. I'm tipping this leg through, and I'm going to sweep this leg around. And I keep my weight distribution onto this leg, and I follow my movement so I don't cramp. Okay? Again, earning that extension into the ground. I feel like I'm going to fall, so I use the wall as leverage. This leg also activates. I swing the leg, and as I'm swinging, I open the foot up. As I swing it back in, my foot turns inward, and I land into that set space. Last one that's really good, which is a favorite of us kickboxers, is what? Remember our teep? So we'll get Kerry to show us the teep. This one's awesome. Holy obliques, Batman. We're going to advance off of this one. We're going to pull that knee in now and towards our chest, turning it up and over. And then we're going to kick it out to the side-ish. And that's going to be our, we call it the teep, but that's essentially really mastering that. So go ahead and do it, Kerry. Really mastering that oblique activation that is responsible for that internal hip mobility. And how often when you're playing sports and you're going to change direction, does that actually happen? You can't control it. So it's imperative that I have an ability to decelerate that and not overly load into that position. That's a recipe for disaster for a number of joints and ligaments. So an exercise like this allows us to explore these extreme positions and gain mastery. Imperative to stay healthy. Not to mention, how are your obliques feeling?
Pretty good.
Yeah, they're feeling like they're on fire. Okay, we've had some practice doing this. No wonder Kerry can head kick. I'm working on it. This girl's ninja. Stay tuned for those workouts later. Couple more, Kerry. Show them how it's done. Good. Remember to pull the knee in first. We're going to pull it in towards our chest. And then we'll kick. Excellent. Good. Very good. And that's a shin box breakdown. Shin box mobility drill. Last one. Good. Okay. We're going to maneuver you guys again so you can get full footage of this. I'll give us a quick second. The next exercise is our caterpillar walks. Loving these live workouts. These are fun. Okay. Caterpillar walks. As the name suggests, Kerry, what are we doing?
Walking out.
Walking out, like she said. Now, if you notice, when she started, she didn't just fall into it. She was intentional about earning that said space here first. And once she got out to that position, she inched herself out rather than falling and aggressively moving fast. The whole point of this is to gain length literally to the back of our body and really activate our core. So we do it very slow and methodical. We walk our hands out. And I want to walk either push-up position, or if I can even go farther, great, a little bit farther. And then when I'm inching my feet in, I'm trying to almost tuck my toes towards my face, get my heels as flat as possible. Now, her and I have had practice, so we get a little bit more space, and we're able to almost walk our feet right up to our fingers. But what if you were tight? What if you couldn't do that? What if you had to start bending your knees and it defeats the purpose of the exercise? Well, that's okay. What we can do is just start to inch our feet out in a wider profile. Because the whole point of this, really mastering this length here to get out of that tightness that can cause back injuries, neck injuries, you name it. So, if I'm too tight, I'll start with a wider base and reach down, inch my fingers out again to that push-up position or slightly farther. Slightly farther is going to activate our core. And when I'm walking, what am I doing with my heels, Kerry?
Keeping them off the ground.
Well, we're going to try to push them to the ground as best as possible. When you get close to your hands and you feel like you've hit a wall, go on your fingertips. That can give you a little bit extra space. But we want to try to almost keep our heels down and have our toes coming up, or we're earning dorsiflexion through that foot space. It's really going to lengthen out not only our hamstrings, but now our calves and our ankle joint, and give us more space there. Allow us to jump better, change the direction better, you name it. Okay, so only need about 3 to 5. Let's do a couple more.
And if you're tight, like toward him.
Right.
Biggest thing too is when you're actually taking your steps or your hands are moving out, really try to avoid doing big choppy movements. You really want to keep the core engaged, and we're not really looking for a lot of hip rotation here.
Woo. And then when you're done, I always suggest reaching and lifting your arms up, almost like we're in yoga, because this is a recovery exercise. We're building a lot of tension, we're lengthening the tension, and then once we get there, we want to take a collective breath and really allow our bodies to recover. I use these in the middle of programs, I use them at the end. Great for recovery. Could do this before or in between crazy squat sets and stuff like that as well. So one more here. Give them a little bit of hump day, booty day action here. So walking the hands out. Okay, and again, walking the feet in. And finishing into that high space, and that's our caterpillar walk.
Did you high-five yourself?
I high-fived myself. I high-fived the air. That's how we roll, right? That's how we do it. All right, this one gets really fun. Now, this is pretty aggressive. If you've had any injuries or anything like that, we'll probably show you some modifications. This is, again, mastery. Mastery of new positions, particularly first we're used to being here. Can we learn how to earn this length and not just do it here? Learn how to earn the shoulder blades, pelvis, you name it. This puts all those pieces together. We're going to do our tabletop. So if we started here, we tabletop. And from this set position, I want to reach across and physically work my rotation there as opposed to over my head. When I go to reach, put my shoulder blades in, I'll lift this foot through, land into a bear crawl position, and as I'm coming back, I start with the leg, and I'm trying to almost heel kick myself in the back of the head, falling nice and light, and finishing into my tabletop. Then I could either do the same side, say 3 or 4 reps, or I can alternate. It's really up to you. Okay? The big takeaways are what, Kerry, when I get to my tabletop?
That we're reaching with the arm over first to create that space, and then the leg starts to follow.
Absolutely.
We're really opening up through the chest here.
Correct.
And how nice and slow and controlled.
Absolutely. How would we open through the chest? Do we simply just try to drive our chest, or what's the first defining feature? The shoulder blades.
Yeah.
Now, if you're tight all the time, it's a connection or an extension of the connection that you have in your AC joint, which connects into your biceps tendon, blah, blah, blah. This is a great one to open that area, especially if you're having neck pain, shoulder pain, arm pain, or if you can't grow anymore. If you've been lifting and, you've hit a plateau, your arms don't grow anymore, your shoulders don't grow. This area could be crowded. We want to earn more space and suppleness, so the tissues get an ability to not always be chronically tight. They know how to expand to their full capacity. This one's great for that. Again, I lift up, rotate through, land softly. I'm going to do the same as I'm coming back. I don't want to be abrupt and really painful through my movement through here. Again, don't need a lot of reps, 6 to 8. This is pretty taxing. Reach through, plant, reach back. I'm going to let Kerry hop in there for the last 2 reps. As you see, she reaches up. She's got a lot more space in those areas, so probably why I want to have her do it. Okay? She lands softly, earning that same rotational or same alignment that we talked about. And she's going to reach back over, landing rather softly, finishing in that tabletop. Now, you can actually do what she did and take a full encompassing rest. You don't have to keep it loaded. I almost encourage you to go back down and then learn or earn that tabletop movement as well. Drive back over. Excellent. And that is our tabletop arm T-spine rotation. 2 more to go, and then we're going to have a little thank you after that. I'm just going to grab some water, folks. This one's very dynamic. It can be for a lot of us pretty demanding and pretty challenging. I'm going to demonstrate one. I'm going to let Kerry demonstrate one because she probably has a little bit more mobility. Now, the biggest takeaway for this is a full integrated movement. Kerry, if you don't mind, I'll just need a little bit more space here. If you've ever done any type of split work where you're working on getting the splits and stuff like that, we're going to add to that aggressively, I call it. And what we have to do is master using our whole body to its full capabilities. If I was to do this exercise without activating my ankles, I hit a wall and I don't get very deep. So the takeaway here is, as I'm doing what is called the integrated full Cossack lunge, my feet and ankles have to be part of the experience. So I'm going to start rather wide-ish. I'm going to load one particular side. I'm going to walk through that said side, and as soon as I commit to that walk, my ankle joint and my feet come with me, and they master that said loading sequence. And when I come back over to the other side, I can finish into my Cossack lunge. And then I would do the same rotating to the other side. So again, I'm doing it rather slow and methodical. What are my takeaways here? Shoulder blades are in, pelvis is in. So shoulder blades are in, pelvis is in. Going through, and then I sit to the profile and try to master that Cossack lunge. As you can see, I'm rather stiff. But as long as I'm mastering or I'm using those said tools or those said rules, it will serve me as best as I can get, and I don't force anything. As soon as I take away one of those components, I can run the risk of it being too aggressive for my body, and I could hurt myself, or I could feel a pinch or an impingement. So you want to feel like you're experiencing it from your head down to your shoes. Okay? We'll let Kerry hop in there and show us how a real mobile person does this. And I will give you a closer view here. So she starts in, it's rather low, and as you can see, as soon as she commits, that foot activates. And the weight stays situated down the center of your body. If you've done any of the training that we've suggested, or we've mastered, that's how it's done. Very good, Kerry. We always talk a lot about initializing or keeping intentional and consistent control where? In our core. And she's able to master that. She has a lot more control than you'd think. And it's all just being intentional about activation. You can see there, feet goes, core goes. When she gets there, if you want to add a step, Kerry can turn the foot towards your face. Actually, the other way, my bad. There you go. And you would look at that said space. Good. Last one going the other side. Then we're going to do the most fun one out of all of these, which, of course, we all love. And that's going to be our full integrated Cossack lunge. Last exercise to go in this movement quality program. For this, we're going to need a stick. I will go. Kerry's going to grab it for us. Shouldn't have said anything. It could have been like a magic show, like ta-da, and then, there it is. Okay, all right. So you don't need a hockey stick. You just need a stick of some sort. And as you get stronger with this, you can also use a weighted instrument. I always suggest doing this one without weight at first. This will master stability at the depths of a squat pattern and teaches all those dynamic things we talked about in respects to hip mobility. That's external and internal hip mobility drills. When I'm sitting through this said squat space, I get as low as I can handle. I will shift my weight to one particular leg, and I want to keep this up at a 45-degree position. Now, my squats aren't the best, but I'm going to master this said space. When I'm here, you can see my alignment and strength is there. With this tension, this leg's now going to sweep. So if I was sitting here, I'm going to sweep it in front, turn the toe in, and then I'll sweep it back. And I'm going to try to sit through my pelvis the whole way through, keeping this loaded. And I swing it across. I'm trying to master that said control space, where this is at 45. When I go to sweep, foot turns internally. I don't have to go past this foot, rather just to the foot, and then I sweep in. I'm looking at where my body is situating the weight. I want to be comfortable or confident with sitting back into the hip profile and using my glutes and my core to do the best I can out of that depth position. We don't need a lot of repetitions here. Again, we squat, we shift, kick this up for control, and we swing. And what are some of the defining moments here, Kerry, when I'm doing this?
We're obviously still having our knee press out to the side slightly just to activate through that glute for some stability. So our glute med is actually our stabilizer. And if sweeping is not happening, you can always throw a towel underneath if you've got a hardwood floor. If you have a carpet, you can always do like a plastic lid of some kind.
Right.
Or you can just go for a 3-point touch.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to Kerry to do the other side, of course. She doesn't get to dodge this exercise. We'll give you a bird's eye view here. Less of that distance position. And as you see, when she kicks the leg back, she doesn't have to go too far. And when she goes to drive the leg in, she's going to turn the foot towards the groin area. And she'll keep moving through that set existence. If you can, Kerry, we'll get you to straighten your arms out a little bit. Good. And when she's sitting, she's going to try her best to sit through her glutes rather than loading too far ahead in front of her face. And it's always the dynamic of what you can handle or position you can control based upon how you're built. Kerry's a little bit of a taller lady. She's got longer legs. So she may hip hinge a bit more, but the key for us is how stable she is. Now she's activating those areas intentionally. Great one for mastering what? Transition out of a squat if I'm using heavy weights. Transition out of a lunge position if I'm going to change direction in a sprint pattern. Maybe I have an opponent on me, things like that. If I work those end range motions and I learn stability and control there, less likely those structures will rupture under pressure or under weight. So it's a great exercise to master that. So that essentially is what the movement quality program from our fitness challenge looks like. Any closing comments for the crowd today?
As much as this doesn't seem like it's an overly tough program, it actually is.
Yeah.
So earning that space and stability with that mobility, like we said last time, is going to give you a better chance at actually earning that space and strengthening rather than getting to those extreme positions and causing injury. Like myself, I need a lot more stability just because I am so mobile.
Absolutely.
So,
and mobility, in its definition is a testament of strength or control and stability in a variety of positions. So mobility is actually a very true form of strength, right? We're concentric and there's always a quick activation point. There's nothing to decelerate those tissues and learn those encompassing movements of deceleration. Again, if I'm only training in that paradigm, I'm only training that style, when something's introduced to my body not ready to it, more risk for injury. Not to mention the time under tension rule, like my core is fired up. Like, you know what I mean? I could be washing some clothes on this bad boy right now.
settle down.
It's a great active recovery day, and that's why we put it in there. If you would love a copy of this particular program to recover from some injuries, or you want something more unique, feel free to reach out to Kerry or myself. Again, that's Longman Wellness Training. And then Kerry is Synergy K Fit. Our fitness challenge enthusiasts are really benefiting from these programs along with all the other ones that we were using and utilizing. We've gone through, 3 of them now? Yeah, 3.
This is the 3rd week,
Yeah, so we're probably going to try to cover almost every single one at least once in these live workouts. And then from there, we're probably just going to start doing unique ones. So, thanks again for tuning in. Sorry for the technical difficulties earlier. Apparently, Kerry's phone works better here than even my place. So it's kind of silly, but it happens. So I'm glad you guys were able to tune in. We're going to repost this as soon as we get a chance. There's lots of value there. So thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. Till next time.